So, what if your next big trip didn't involve an airport at all? Seriously, just think about a future where your car is your personal lounge, your mobile office, maybe even your bedroom. We're talking about a future that could completely change how we travel, work, and even where we live.
Just picture it for a second. No more lines for airport security, no more cramming into tiny seats, no more stressing about flight delays. Instead, you just step into a vehicle right at your own front door, and you wake up totally refreshed at your destination. And look, this isn't some far-off science fiction dream. It's the future that's being promised by autonomous vehicles, or AVs.
And that possibility brings up a huge question, one that could totally disrupt a massive industry. Are we actually on the verge of seeing the end of the short haul flight as we know it? Okay, so let's really get into this. And we're going to start with a frustration that I think pretty much all of us have felt, the so-called short flight.
Yeah, we call them short-haul flights, but the reality, it's often anything but. I mean, take a look at the route from LAX to San Francisco. In the air, it's about an hour, sure, but it's a 6-hour drive. And get this, there are between 50 and 70 flights making that exact trip every single day. You see the same thing with Vegas to LA or even a super short hop like Chicago to Milwaukee. These aren't just stats on a table. They represent a massive, massive inefficiency and millions of hours of our collective frustration.
So here's the real kicker. When you actually add it all up, driving to the airport, getting there super early for security, boarding, the flight itself, and then getting a ride from your destination airport to where you're actually going, that short flight often takes way longer than just driving. It's a broken system that's just been hiding in plain sight. And it turns out, we're not alone in feeling this way. That shared frustration sparked this huge online conversation about a better way forward, and it gave us a glimpse into what could be the start of a robo-taxi revolution.
So a while back, I started a thread on X under my handle @ALSCyborg. I just posed a simple idea. What if self-driving robo-taxis could make all these frustrating flights totally obsolete? It really struck a nerve, and the whole conversation just exploded.
And what was so cool was how the conversation went way beyond just replacing a taxi ride. It became about redesigning our lives. For example, a user named @Trishua imagined a robovan that could literally dock at your house like an extra master bedroom, just ready to whisk you away whenever you wanted. How cool is that? And then @Zen4Free just cut right to the heart of why this is so appealing. The benefits are just so practical, so obvious. Cheap price, no checking your bags, no going through security. You just put your chair back and go to sleep. As they put it, it's a no-brainer. You know, this whole conversation also puts something else into perspective. We spend billions and billions debating high-speed rail, which needs all this brand new, expensive infrastructure and locks us into these rigid routes and schedules. But robotaxis, they offer a much more flexible, adaptable solution. They use the roads we already have, they give us on-demand door-to-door service. It's really a choice between adaptability and inflexibility. And listen, this isn't just a fun thought experiment we're having online. The actual hard data shows that autonomous vehicles are really poised to change, well, just about everything. 30%. Just let that number sink in. According to the FAA, that's how much of the entire U.S. domestic flight market is made up of these inefficient short trips. We're not talking about a niche market here. This is a colossal opportunity that's just waiting for disruption. And it's not just us saying it. Researchers are starting to back this up with numbers. A study from the University of Texas at Austin found that for trips under 500 miles, as many as a quarter of all air travelers might choose to switch to an autonomous vehicle instead. I mean, that is a seismic shift in how we get around. So why would people actually make that switch? Well, the real game changer here isn't just about the minutes and hours. It's about our perception of that time. When your travel time becomes productive time or rest time, a 6-hour journey isn't 6 hours of your life wasted anymore. In fact, studies are showing that time spent in an AV feels up to 32% less burdensome than driving yourself. That completely changes the math on whether you take a long trip. And the ripple effects go way beyond just travel. An MIT analysis is actually predicting that as our commutes get longer but a whole lot easier, the premium you pay for housing in a city could drop by 10 to 20%. Meanwhile, values in the outer suburbs, the exurbs, could soar. The very map of where we can afford to live could be completely redrawn. And think about this for a second. In some cities, up to a third of all the land is just dedicated to parking cars. But cars that drive themselves, they don't need prime real estate just to sit around all day. This technology could literally free up our cities, giving all that space back to us for more housing, for parks, for people.
So, this all leads us to a really fundamental choice we have to make about our future. It's a choice between two very different ideas about what progress looks like.
We're looking at two different visions for a sustainable future. On one side, you've got an approach that's focused on conservation through sacrifice and regulation. Things like banning flights, restricting car use, and having us rely on rigid public transit schedules. On the other side, there's a vision of achieving sustainability through innovation, using clean, efficient, on-demand electric AVs to give us freedom of movement, but with a much smaller environmental footprint.
And you know what? This shift from air to ground is already happening. Airlines like United and American are already using buses for some of their shortest routes. France has gone and banned certain domestic flights, and you're seeing premium bus services pop up with luxury lie-flat seats. So autonomous vehicles aren't some crazy leap. They're just the next, most powerful step in an evolution that's already underway.
And here's the environmental payoff. By embracing this kind of technology, studies show we could cut our overall transport emissions by over 12%. This is real proof that we don't necessarily have to sacrifice our freedom of movement to build a sustainable future. Innovation can get us there too. But at the end of the day, all of these massive systemic changes, they really come down to something deeply human and deeply personal.
Because for me, this technology is about so much more than just convenience. Self-driving cars aren't just a better way to get from point A to point B. They are, quite literally, liberators. As someone living with ALS, and for millions and millions of others with disabilities, this technology represents a level of freedom, of independence, and accessibility that is it's impossible with the transportation system we have today. It's like a key to a world that's been locked for so many of us.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. If your travel time was no longer a burden, if your commute was actually effortless, maybe even productive, how would that change your life? Where would you choose to live? The answer to that question could redefine your entire world.